Welcome, everyone. I know folks are trickling in right now. We're very excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. I know it's May and we're all very busy closing out the school year, but we really appreciate your time and your attention and your participation today. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll introduce myself first before we jump right in. I'm Dareen Khatib. I'm with the Orange County Department of Education. I'm Administrator of Health and Wellness, so I support a lot of different health, wellness, prevention, and nutrition services supports for our schools. And I'm very excited to partner with so many agencies that are here that are going to be a part of this webinar that you're going to get to hear from in just a few minutes. So with that, we'll get going. Let's jump into our quick housekeeping and shared rules. If you end up having any tech issues, unfortunately, we can't just show up to your house or to your office to support you. So please sign off and just come right back into the webinar. Hopefully it's something quick. Feel free to send us your questions throughout the webinar. You don't have to wait until the very end. What we're going to do is we're going to pause after each presenter and take in the questions and answer the questions. So don't worry about that. You could use the Q&A since this is a webinar, or you could also put them in the chat, whatever works for you. So you are in listen only mode. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to unmute and give feedback. However, don't forget about the chat. Comments and other concerns or anything like that can be communicated via the chat. And then last but not least, people are always like, hey, can I have this? I'm not going to remember all of this information you shared. Absolutely. We will make sure that the presentation and then the webinar recording is emailed to you in about a week. So just give us about a week and then you'll have all of the information that is shared today. We're going to start with just a quick welcome and just kind of setting the stage, like, why is this important? I know many of you who signed up for this webinar play different roles at school sites and support school sites in different ways, whether it's directly being a part of nutrition services or a community liaison who helps with family and community engagement. I mean, you know, we definitely have even community-based organizations who want to support schools. So we have different attendees and we want to make sure that there is a space for us all to be like, oh, this is the why behind this work. And then we are going to give you a little bit of information on CalFresh, CEP, school meals, a little bit about actual CalFresh outreach. You'll learn a little bit about what's available to us in the county, partnerships, and just being inspired by partnerships that are in place. And then we're going to talk about what CalFresh outreach specifically via schools and who does what and how you can be engaged in that process. Then last but not least, want to make sure that you walk away with strategies to increase CalFresh enrollment, right? We want to be able to support as many students and families in Orange County as we can. And we're going to jump right into setting the stage. The why. Why are we talking about this? If we go to the next slide, I mean, this is just really briefly, we know that school meals matter. I think we could all attest to the fact that we want to make sure that students are not hungry. School meals are incredibly reliable. It's a consistent source of nutrient-dense foods for students. Everybody has always known that we need healthy eating for our physical growth, but it's also imperative for cognitive growth. I mean, students are, you know, children and teens, as they are developing, healthy meals are incredibly essential to that development. But not only that, we're talking so much about health, right? I think with the pandemic, it's really brought that to the forefront for a lot of us, thinking about, you know, how to support the health of our students. Absolutely their physical health, but there's a lot of conversation around mental health. Healthy eating is a huge piece of maintaining, supporting mental health for our students, for our children and our teens. There is so much research to show the link between healthy eating and nutrition to mood, behavior, risk for anxiety, risk for depression. So in our efforts to really support the mental health of students at schools, we can't leave access to healthy foods out of that conversation, and ensuring that that is a part of our universal supports for all students. And research in regards to academic achievement has been around for years, direct impact between nutrition and academic achievement. So hopefully this is just a quick review. We all know this, but we need to repeat it because it's really not on everyone's forefront when we talk about support for our students and families on school campuses. So, okay, we're talking about school meals. Yeah, that's great, incredibly important. We don't want to stop when the school day ends, even the extended school day ends. We want to make sure our students have access, in the evenings, they have access on the weekends, during holidays, that we have the support for students, that it is not just through the school meals. And that's really where CalFresh comes in. So formerly known as food stamps, nationally known as SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and then here in California known as CalFresh, because we're California, so we got to call it a little something different. So for us here in California, CalFresh is really this amazing foundational social safety net for our families and all children across the state. It's one of two fundamental safety net programs that we have available, throughout the nation for our families. And, just a gentle reminder that CalFresh and this resource, it's a critical resource for families during time of crisis. And I think, again, the pandemic and the current crisis that, financial, economical crisis, the inflation, and so many issues, that's a time of crisis for families. This is an essential resource for them in time of crisis. And for other families that struggle with a persistent need or repeated episodes of need, this is so incredibly crucial for them. And when we talk about how do we get this information to children and families, schools are poised to promote CalFresh, poised to link families to CalFresh. Just like we talk to all of our educators, and we talk to our families, and we are always looking for ways to link them to resources in the community. This is another resource we need to do. So just like we talk about, what mental health supports do we have in the county that we could promote? Same conversation. How do they get access to medication, or how do we ensure that our families have access to certain needs? This is another resource that we want to make sure that we are promoting in our schools to really help ensure that the safety net for our families is in place. So that's really the kind of the connection, wanting to make sure that we are all centered in that. If we go to the next slide, I also wanted to also repeat that this is not just a nice to do. A big piece of our current district and school priorities very much include this as a role. So family and community engagement is actually required as a part of our local control and accountability plans that all districts must include. And when we think about how are you providing resources to families, especially families in low-income communities, they're called out. This is already a part of that work. And not to forget about our local school wellness policies that are all about ensuring a health and the health and wellness of our school environments, and very much call out nutrition education and physical activity. They also include nutrition promotion and activities that promote student wellness, where CalFresh outreach could really fall under that. It is a clear connection. It's not separate. It's definitely clear. And it is a really key component of ensuring that we're taking care of the health and wellness of our students. A couple of other quick ones. Hopefully you have all heard of the California multi-tier system of support, the continuum of support. CalFresh outreach, if all of our students, universal support, this top piece right here, if all of our students are receiving access to school meals, and we want to make sure that they are well nourished on school campuses, some of our students and a few of our students are going to need more. And that's really where CalFresh comes in. So this is a great opportunity to link families to a supplemental support, or for some, it's an intensive support that really helps make sure that our students come to our schools ready to learn, and that their physical, social, emotional, and mental health is taken care of. And then last but not least, I cannot not mention the whole school, whole community, whole child model, where the center is making sure that, the whole child, we want to make sure students are healthy, safe, engaged, supported, challenged. This is what we're trying to do. This is really the key. And as you could see, the blue components on the outside of this model is, well, how do we do that? How do we make sure students are healthy and safe and supported? Look at all of these amazing services, family engagement, community involvement, actual looking at nutrition environment and services. There are multiple components here where our the work that we do around really propping up and promoting school meals and supporting school meals and CalFresh outreach fits in so nicely and really helps that approach and ensures that we can meet the needs of the whole child. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Hopefully this kind of cements the why for us and gives all of us some talking points when we are talking to our colleagues, our administrators, and others on school campuses, even when we talk to our families, and making sure that we are approaching this work knowing that it's not a nice to do, but it is very much an integral part of many of our frameworks and many of our current priorities across the state. And with that, I am going to stop talking, and I am going to hand it over to Robin Hernandez with No Kid Hungry, who is our school meals access manager, and is going to take us into a little bit more information, some grounding on school meals, CEP, and CalFresh. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you so much, Dareen, and thank you everybody for allowing me to join you today. As Dareen mentioned, my name is Robin Hernandez. I am a registered dietitian, and I have a background working in school nutrition. And with No Kid Hungry now, I provide on-the-ground assistance to our districts who are implementing new programs. Next slide, please, Tommy. So just a little bit about our organization. Hunger affects children in every community in the United States, but No Kid Hungry, we believe it's a solvable problem. And that effective programs exist to close the gap between kids who have enough to eat and those who don't. Too often, however, these programs are not reaching the kids that need them. And No Kid Hungry strategy focuses on problem solving, working with local partners to identify and eliminate barriers for kids. And we do this through engaging with school meal providers to provide them the support that they need, providing grants, and also advocacy. Next slide, please. So the reason we're looking for schools to promote CalFresh is, first and foremost, it can help ensure that children in need have access to food when they leave school grounds for the day and for the weekend. Secondly, not only are schools considered one of the most trusted sources of information for families, but they are also one of the quickest ways to identify areas where CalFresh may most likely be needed amongst children. When families get enrolled for benefits at a school district, it benefits the schools in return. And there are compounding benefits for schools when they promote CalFresh. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the things going on in school meal service, how universal meals and community eligibility provision, along with how unduplicated pupil count and identified student percentage, how they all intersect when it comes to CalFresh. Next slide, please. So universal meals in California is coming next school year with the passage of AB 130. California became the first state requiring public school districts, county offices of ed, charter schools serving students to grades K through 12 to provide free breakfast and lunch, regardless of the student's free or reduced price meal eligibility. So this is a huge deal and an incredible step forward in fighting childhood hunger and achieving equity for kids. The way it's going to work is that child nutrition providers are going to be reimbursed with federal dollars at the regular rates for their free, reduced, and paid meals served. The state of California is going to use the $650 million that's been allocated to this program to fill in the gaps so that nutrition providers end up receiving reimbursements at the free rate for all meals served. So in short, all children will eat for free and all meal providers will be reimbursed at the free rate for all meals served. So to sustain this program, however, it's going to be critical that districts draw down as many federal dollars possible so that the state of California will be less burdened and will just have to supplement that difference in funding. So the California Department of Education has announced that all schools that meet the federal ISP threshold, which is now at 40%, that they must apply for a federal provision such as CEP or Provision 2 by June 30th of this year. Next slide, please. So for those of you that may not be familiar with community eligibility provision, we'll refer to it from CEP here on out. It is a program that's been around for years now, and it allows school food service providers to provide meals to children completely for free without the use of school meal applications. And this program has really been a game changer for so many schools by reducing the stigma associated with students who pay for their meals versus those who qualify for them for free. When everyone eats for free, there's less division amongst peers and less stigma. The way it works is every school has an identified student percentage, which is made up of directly certified students who already received certain types of assistance programs, like CalFresh, for example. This also includes homeless, runaway students, migrant, and foster students. The ISP, or identified student percentage, must meet at least 40% as an individual school or as an average of a group of schools in order to qualify for community eligibility. Under CEP, the school's ISP is then multiplied by 1.6 to receive a new percentage, and this percentage will be the meals that are reimbursed at the free rate. In most cases, this will mean more federal dollars and a more sustainable universal meals program in the long haul. Next slide. So after hearing about universal meals and that everybody is getting paid at the free rate and all students are eating for free, you might be wondering, okay, if they're being reimbursed for free, why would anybody still apply for CEP, right? The truth is, there are many benefits for child nutrition providers that can result in better service for students and even result in more kids eating meals, which is what we all want. Next slide, please. So when it comes to CEP benefits, when a school is on CEP, they are no longer allowed to collect traditional meal applications. Instead, they're going to be collecting alternative income forms, which in a universal meals atmosphere, that might actually be an easier sell to parents to try to get those forms filled out. It might prove a little difficult to get them to fill out a meal application when their kid's already eating for free. So alternative income forms is something that can be used. And it should be noted that non-CEP schools will still have to collect free and reduced meal price applications next year. Also under CEP, schools can enjoy streamlined counting and claiming processes. Alternative methods such as using clicker counts instead of having to do pin pads at a regular POS are allowed under CEP. There's a reduced admin burden. There's no more claiming students as free, reduced, and paid. It's just regular number of kids that you've fed. And you also have an option to group schools. So more schools can qualify that way. So for example, you may have a school with an ISP of 60 and another school that you can group it with that has an ISP of under 40%. You group them together, they both get to benefit from the CEP program. And then also, students who attend CEP schools throughout the pandemic have been eligible for PEBT benefits. And should those benefits be extended, students that attend these CEP schools will continue to enjoy those benefits. Next slide. And so now I just want to give those of you who may not be in food service may be wondering, how does this make a real difference in real time on a school site? What's the big deal with the admin burden and the clicker counts? And it really can be a game changer in how meals are served on the ground at a campus. So this is just kind of a little flow chart just to give you kind of an idea. So a school's CEP, so they're no longer required to monitor eligibility at the point of sale. Regular schools, when the child comes in, they put in their PIN, it has to tell nutrition services whether that student is a free, reduced, or paid student. Under CEP, you don't have to do that anymore. So instead, you are allowed to, as an option, use clicker counts and just do a head count of the number of students that you serve. When you do this, especially at secondary sites, lines move faster and you can feed more kids per line per staff member. When this happens, when lines move faster, more kids want to participate because they hate standing in line, right? When this happens, you can add more points of service on campus. And the great thing is you can do this without having to worry about Wi-Fi and computer systems. And then the staff that are monitoring those lines can then focus on making sure they take reimbursable meals rather than having to focus on the computers. And then this can lead to the addition of a lot of great programs like Second Chance Breakfast, Breakfast in the Classroom, Breakfast After the Bell, or grab and go meals. And when we're able to implement these programs more seamlessly, there's more equity achieved in meal service and overall more increased participation, which actually ends up in increasing revenue for child nutrition service programs and being good for everybody. Next slide. So now I've explained universal meals and community eligibility provision. I want to circle back to CalFresh. CalFresh plays a role in ISP, which remember is the identified student percentage. And it plays a role in this calculations. Students become directly certified to receive free meals without an application once they are enrolled in CalFresh. So the more students that are enrolled in CalFresh at a given school, the higher the school's ISP will be. And the higher a school's ISP will be, that allows them to participate in programs like CEP. CalFresh enrollment also plays a role in unduplicated pupil count, also known as the UPC. And the UPC plays a direct role in LCFF funding for schools, in particular when calculating supplemental and concentration grants. A student is counted in the unduplicated pupil count once they become categorically eligible for free meals. So again, the student is enrolled in CalFresh, they are automatically eligible for at a school site. They're categorically eligible. So the more students enrolled in CalFresh, the more potential for LCFF funding there may be. Next slide. And finally, as we transition to our next topic, I wanted to bring your attention to the income eligibility requirements for these popular programs. In order to qualify for free school meals, a student of a family of 4 must not exceed more than $34,000 in income. Just for comparison's sake, Medi-Cal's limit for a family of 4 is $36,000, and the CalFresh threshold is $34,000. So the chances are, if a student is approved to receive free school meals based on income, they will most likely be approved for CalFresh. But what we're seeing is that throughout counties in California, there's an enrollment gap, and not as many students that are receiving free school meals are also enrolled in CalFresh. So there's an opportunity by doing CalFresh outreach in schools to serve these students and get them the support they need, while also supporting school nutrition programming through CEP and supporting schools through their LCFF funding. And with that, I'm going to go to the next slide. And thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to Dareen.
Thank you so much, Robin. That was incredibly informative. And I really appreciate that everyone will have access to your slides so that they could come back and kind of reference some of the nuances that you talked about. I do have a question for you from one of our attendees. The question is, can you give an example of the grouping of schools? Would an example of grouping be that like an elementary school is 60% with a close by middle school that's 30%? Or how does it work? Like, could it be a school that's across town? How does the grouping work basically?
So when you apply for CEP as a school district, let's say your school district has 20 schools. And in a given geographic area, you can group any schools in your district, so long as they are within your same district. And you can do 3 different groups. You can do 5 different groups. You can have a group of 2, a group of 10, or you can qualify a school individually. So again, each school has their own ISP, and the way you're going to figure out your total ISP is you're going to, once you decide what your groupings are, it's going to be a simple average of those schools' ISP to get your new average for that grouping. And so long as that average meets or exceeds 40%, that whole grouping of schools can apply and should apply for CEP. And you can get in contact with us at No Kid Hungry. We have tons of resources available, including a meals count calculator to help you with the groupings. So it's got an advanced algorithm that does all the math for you, so you don't have to figure it out. It's fantastic. So if you need help with any of that, then please get in touch with me or any of the program managers for No Kid Hungry.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Okay, I think those are all the questions. So we are going to go into the next segment, which is CalFresh enrollment and demographics update. And we're really excited to have, I think it's Peter, right? Yes.
Yes.
Peter
Yes.
Dinh is joining us from social services, and he'll introduce himself and share a little bit more information. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter Dinh. I'm an administrative manager with the CalFresh General Relief Program here at the Orange County Social Services Agency. As Dareen previously mentioned, I'll be providing you with just some background information about the CalFresh program. And then in the second half of the presentation, I'll be looking at some of the data patterns and trends that we're noticing across our enrollment efforts, as well as some of the challenges and changes programmatically we'll be seeing within the next couple of months. So with that, let's move on to the next slide for a brief overview of what the CalFresh program entails. So really, CalFresh is a federally and state-funded nutrition program that's really designed to help low-income individuals and families ensure that they have the proper resources they need to secure healthy and nutritious foods. Generally speaking, the benefit allotments that an individual or family may receive on a monthly basis will vary depending on multiple factors, such as the household size, income, and other expenses that might be a burden for the individual or family. But generally speaking, if we're talking about the maximum allotment amounts for an individual, that's $250 per month. And if we're talking about a household of 4, we would be looking at a maximum of $835 in CalFresh benefits that they may receive. So if we're thinking about the total amount that an individual or household could be subsidized with in terms of food expenses, this could go a very long way in supporting families in providing what they need to ensure that their children have access to healthy foods. And additionally, that would reallocate some of their budget to allow them to utilize that money elsewhere. So it's a good subsidy in ensuring that families have the resources they need. Now, if a household is approved for CalFresh benefits, they would receive an electronic benefit transfer card, which is what you see on the right-hand side. And it acts very much so like a debit card. So anywhere that accepts EBT cards, essentially someone can go in and purchase food and nutritious meals. Moving on to the next slide. There are multiple areas which families could go to shop for using their EBT benefits. Traditionally, when we think about EBT usage, a lot of times we think of just grocery stores such as Albertsons, Vaughn's. Northgate Marketplace is a grocery chain here in Orange County. But I do want to stress that with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, these resources are changing over time to make the process of securing food easier for families. So now, in addition to grocery stores, online retailers such as Walmart and Amazon can be used for families to order produce and have it delivered directly to their door. Now, we know that in terms of eligibility criteria, low-income households oftentimes have greater difficulties with reliable transportation. And this is a service which really helps ensure that, again, families are able to secure healthy and nutritious meals. 2 specific programs I also want to call out here, which are programs that are especially working in tandem with CalFresh, would be Mas Fresco, which is available at Northgate Marketplaces, and Market Match, which is available through various farmers markets in Orange County. Both of these programs are rebate programs. So for every CalFresh dollar spent, there would be a match for the purchase of fruits or vegetables. So as an example with Market Match, for every 10 CalFresh dollars spent, a family would receive an additional $10 to purchase additional fruits and vegetables. So we could see that not only in addition to the CalFresh benefits a family may receive, they can actually stretch their dollar even further by taking advantage of these additional programs that are available within the community. Last but not least, I want to briefly mention the restaurant meals program. Now, generally as a rule, hot foods or pre-prepared meals are not available to purchase with EBT cards, which we'll talk about on the next slide. But with the restaurant meals program, if families or individuals are eligible to this program, then they can actually use their EBT card at participating restaurants throughout Orange County to purchase meals. Now, this program is really designed for the elderly, homeless, or disabled, and primarily demographic groups where purchasing and preparing meals is more difficult and a challenge. So in these events, these individuals may go to places like Subway or El Pollo Loco to purchase pre-prepared meals. Next slide, please. Generally speaking, as in terms of items that can be purchased, food and beverages designated for human consumption, like fruits, vegetables, dairies, meats, these can all be used to purchase using EBT cards. In addition to that, households or individuals on CalFresh may also purchase seeds or plants used to grow food. So this is something that is sometimes under-referenced, but I do want to stress that it is something that can be purchased. Through FNS, the anticipation is that for every dollar spent on seeds, this yields approximately $25 worth of fruits or vegetables. So that's kind of the impetus and driving factor as to why EBT benefits can also be used to purchase, again, plants and seeds. Next slide, please. Items that can't be purchased, again, unless an individual qualifies for the restaurant meals program, hot foods cannot be purchased or pre-made meals available in a hot section of a grocery store, for example. In addition to that, non-food items or alcoholic beverages or tobacco, these type of items cannot be purchased using EBT benefits. In terms of who is eligible for CalFresh program, in Orange County, a person must be a resident, and in addition, there is a citizenship criteria. So individuals must be citizens or eligible non-citizens, such as legal permanent residents. I do want to take a moment to stress that mixed households may also be eligible to the CalFresh program. So children in households with undocumented parents, for example, would still be eligible to qualify for CalFresh. Now, something that Robin briefly mentioned was the similarities between the CalFresh population and individuals who would be receiving meals through the National School Lunch Program. Now, as a rule, with CalFresh, the gross income limit is 200% of the federal poverty level. This is really similar to the income cutoff for National School Lunch Program, which is 185%. So if we're thinking of the parallels in the population, individuals who are eligible to CalFresh would be the same individuals who are eligible to the National School Lunch Program. If an individual qualifies for National School Lunch Program, then very likely they will also qualify for CalFresh. There are several different application methods to apply for this program. Some of the easiest and most convenient ways include applying online, such as through mybenefitscalwin.org or getcalfresh.org. Alternatively, we do have a call center as well where individuals can call anytime on Monday through Friday. And also there are limited operating hours on Saturday as well. Alternatively, individuals could go to any one of our SSA regional office buildings or apply via mail or fax. I do want to take a minute to also stress that we do have a mobile outreach vehicle and a mobile response team. So if interested, in the past, our outreach team has gone to UC Irvine, for example, or Cal State Fullerton, where our outreach team provides not only CalFresh information for students who are interested in the program, but this outreach team also collects applications as well. So we do also go out into the community to provide information, and if there's any interest in SSA visiting perhaps at a school district or a school event perhaps, this is also something that can be taken advantage of. So with that, the next half, or I'm sorry, really quick plug as well for the CalFresh Toolkit. So a lot of the information that I went over really quickly, it's very dense in information, and I do want to take a minute here to talk about the toolkit because all of the information that I presented is available within this toolkit. This was created in collaboration with a lot of our community partners, and it contains all of the messaging and information that's needed to really get started in spreading awareness about the CalFresh program. So not only does it have eligibility information, it also has information on where individuals can apply and really some of the other program benefits that come along with applying for the CalFresh program. With that, the next half of the presentation will really go over some of the data trends that we're really seeing in terms of enrollment, where we're seeing peaks in utilization and areas that we can further push with outreach. So just as a look here, what we're seeing is that in June of 2021, SSA really made a concerted push to increase CalFresh awareness in the community. And since June, we've seen a 10.8% increase in CalFresh enrollment overall. So as a whole, we're really making headway in reaching out to the community. Most of the driving force in this enrollment increase has been with our senior population, which we've been heavily targeting. We've also seen a very large growth in our adult population as well. If we can move on to the next slide. I do want to spend a minute talking about the child enrollment population, though. So one of the efforts that we've been really pushing forward is increasing our child enrollment numbers. And if we're looking at our start point of June till present, we haven't really seen too much headway in this population overall. And some of the key trends to note here is that around October is when we see our peak, followed by a period of decline. Now, just for some context, we know that federal stimulus packages officially ended in September. In addition to that, we're looking at the ending of programs such as UIB. And if we're also looking at unemployment numbers in Orange County, we know that unemployment was around 7% in June, and it's starting to decline as we move towards January of 2022. So a couple of factors may be at play here. As more families return to work, being over the income limit may be a factor which is resulting in households and families falling off of CalFresh. But I do want to point out that in March, we're starting to see an uptick again. And this is actually hopefully in conjunction with some of the efforts that we're engaging in with community partners such as Healthcare Agency and CalOptima. So again, we're really trying to push to increase information and awareness for the program within the community. But this is just a quick snapshot in how our enrollment numbers are trending now and a close look at our child population from January till present date. Next slide. So this is a heat map essentially, which really reflects CalFresh enrollment across Orange County. And one of the things that's really nice to visually look at is the census tracts that are in that dark shade of red. These are areas which reflect high CalFresh enrollment. And as we look elsewhere towards that lighter beige or that tan color, these are areas where we're seeing lower CalFresh enrollment. So a couple of things we immediately notice is that CalFresh enrollment and utilization is much higher in cities located towards central Orange County. So areas like Santa Ana, Anaheim, Garden Grove. As we move towards the periphery of Orange County, we see that CalFresh enrollment tapers off. And if we can move towards the next slide, both of these two maps in conjunction with one another actually tells us a very meaningful story. So the only addition with this map here is the addition of a poverty index, which is denoted by those green diamonds you see overlaid on top of the original map. Now, what these diamonds represent is a poverty ratio within each census tract. The smaller the diamond, the smaller the poverty ratio. The larger the diamond, the higher the poverty index is within that area. And what this map enables us to do is identify areas which CalFresh underutilization is occurring. So what I mean by that is if we're looking at areas with large diamonds, but the underlay for the census tract is that beige or light tan color, what that means is CalFresh enrollment is low within these areas in relation to a high poverty level, right? So again, when we look at this map, it really helps us identify areas which we can increase our outreach or at least identify areas that are being underserved. So just as a quick shout out to a couple areas on this map where we see these patterns, we see that Fullerton, Brea, Irvine, and the Laguna Woods, Laguna Hills area, these are all areas where we see, again, those larger diamonds denoting higher poverty rates. But at the same time, we also see that these are areas where there's low CalFresh enrollment. So it is a good opportunity map. It's something that's helpful for us to consider as we move forward in considering where to target and where additional information can be helpful in as far as campaigning goes. Next slide, please. So the next things I'm going to talk about would be our enrollment barriers and challenges. These are some of the top reasons that have been cited across multiple studies. And unsurprisingly, these are some of the common elements that are a recurring theme, unfortunately. We see that individuals being unaware that they're eligible for the program, the perception that their income is too high to receive benefits, or just being unsure of how to apply for or to access benefits. These are a lot of common challenges that households face. But if we think about the underlying reason behind these barriers, it's really information or the lack thereof. Households and families are generally just not sure of where to go or why they should apply for benefits. And these benefits are ultimately a resource for the community. So if we think broadly of the barriers and challenges, the one thing I do want to highlight is information is a very large barrier currently, which is something we're trying to address. And if we look towards the next slide, this is something that was recently found in a study that was conducted in December of 2021 and January 2022. But in the survey, respondents were asked about what sources of information they trusted in learning about programs like CalFresh or similar programs. And one thing I wanted to point out about the study and its findings, which is really relevant to this group here, is that across all of the survey respondents, schools were identified as being the most credible and trustworthy source for information regarding the CalFresh program or similar programs. So really what these findings suggest is that in terms of the amount of influence and credibility schools have, it's a great opportunity and resource to leverage as far as providing information and the ability for schools to reach out and make an impact on families, especially when it comes to securing, again, additional budgeting for healthy and nutritious meals. So I really did like that the survey included this question, and in terms of the opportunity and overlap with this presentation here, I thought it was very informative to share out with the group as a whole. Next slide. Last but not least, I want to conclude with just a couple of programmatic changes that we're anticipating within the next couple months. So the first thing I want to briefly talk about are emergency allotments. So in March of 2020, households that were receiving CalFresh benefits received an additional amount of money, the minimum of $95 per month in emergency allotments to assist families throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is there's discussions at CDSS regarding emergency allotments, and what we do know presently is that when the public health emergency is officially lifted, counties will be given 30 days to notify households and families that emergency allotments will be ending. Now, what does this mean? Ultimately, it means that if households and families are to apply, now is a really good time to do so because the emergency allotments are still in effect. And that means that if approved for CalFresh benefits, families would be receiving additional funding for the purchasing of food and healthy meals. The next thing I want to talk about would be changes to our flexibility waivers. So in particular, right now we have a waiver in effect such that if individuals are submitting complete CalFresh applications with all of the mandatory verifications, they can actually bypass the requirement of completing an application interview, which takes about 40 minutes to an hour to complete. So this waiver right now is really designed to simplify the process and make it easier to apply for CalFresh. This waiver is expiring January 30th of 2020, so next month. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because, again, there's still a limited window open in which this waiver is in effect. Therefore, it's an opportune time to apply for CalFresh in order to take advantage of the interview waiver. Last but not least, I want to point out some of the temporary student exemption changes that, again, were implemented as a result of COVID. And what we're seeing here is that with the temporary student exemption, in the past, students had to be approved for federal work study in order to be eligible for the CalFresh program. We're talking about students between the ages of 18 to 49 years of age. Right now, however, with the exemptions in place, students only have to be eligible to receive work study. So the process, again, of receiving CalFresh is easier right now if students are applying than once this exemption is waived. Unfortunately, we don't know when the temporary student exemptions will expire, but we also anticipate that this is likely to occur when the public health emergency lifts. With that, that's pretty much what I wanted to go over with the group today. If there are any questions, I yield my time to seeing what everyone has in terms of program information or anything else that might have come to mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Before we let you go, there is a question. Do you think there's a possibility the waiver will be renewed?
The interview waiver, I assume?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so the interview waiver cannot be extended. The public health emergency linked waivers, such as emergency allotments, these are really dependent on what happens at the federal level, however.
Got it. Can you repeat the, the date, the expiration date of the waiver again?
Yeah, so the interview waiver will officially expire June 30th.
June 30th, so next month. Wow.
Yes, correct.
Okay, around the corner. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
That was just wonderful information. I really appreciate it. I think the data that you share, and especially the heat maps, really kind of bring to the surface a little bit of a call to action. I always worry about the pockets where families really need support in maybe more affluent areas and where they get overlooked, and just really looking at that map and thinking about we could all really support the promotion and the outreach efforts to make sure all families who need these supports know that they exist and really help bridge that gap for them to access the supports.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you again. Okay, we are gonna move right along to our next set of presenters. They're both friends and colleagues from Orange County Healthcare Agency that I have known for a very long time. Very, very lucky to know them. Gina Osborne and Anna Luciano-Acenas. And I'm just gonna introduce them both so that Gina could hand it off to Anna. And welcome, Gina, take it away.
Thank you, Dareen, and thank you, Peter, for that great overview of CalFresh. So my name is Gina Osborne, and I'm a registered dietitian and supervising public health nutritionist at the Orange County Healthcare Agency for the CalFresh Healthy Living Program. And my team actually coordinates services and activities in the cities of Fullerton, Garden Grove, Santa Ana, and San Juan Capistrano. And so Peter briefly mentioned the CalFresh communication toolkit for families with kids K through 12. And so today I'll actually be sharing how Fullerton School District is helping families access food using that toolkit, as well as posting other resources on their website. So next slide, please. So we actually shared this toolkit with the Fullerton School District. I believe it was back in March or April. And there were actually two resources that they were very interested in. And so this slide here actually highlights those two resources. And these are actually in that toolkit that Peter mentioned. And so the two they were interested in were the CalFresh myth versus fact page, which dispels some of the myths, and then the what is CalFresh. And this actually just gives a little bit of information about CalFresh, as well as the different ways to apply. And so they distributed both of these at a family night at one of their schools, and they are potentially going to actually post both of these on their website. The one thing I did want to mention about this toolkit that we're excited about is that it's available in several different languages. It's in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Korean, and Farsi. So, so it's available in those 5 different languages. Next slide, please. So on the Fullerton School District website, they have additional resources to help family access healthy foods. And some of these include, to the left, you'll see at the top the OC food help link, which I'll show you in just a moment here. A food assistance in OC flyer, which I will share as well. They also have a list of local food pantries in Fullerton that families can visit to get additional food to help put food on their tables. And then special focus on the Hub of Hope food pantry. Next slide, please. So the image you see to the left, this is the OC Food Help website that I mentioned. And when families go here, they can get information about not only CalFresh, but also other food resources. They have a food pantry map and other nutrition resources. And then the flyer that you see on the right, that's the food assistance in Orange County flyer that I mentioned. And this was actually developed in partnership with HCA and our 2 local food banks, so Second Harvest Food Bank and the OC Food Bank. And this was actually developed as a response to COVID. And it not only highlights CalFresh, but other food programs that families might be eligible for. So we shared this with Fullerton School District, and they were able to put this on their website. Next slide, please. And then I mentioned the food pantry. So to the left, you'll see the 10 food pantries in Fullerton where families can go for extra food. And then they also highlighted Hub of Hope, which is a food pantry just behind one of the schools in Fullerton, Richmond Elementary. And I just wanted to let all of you know that this pantry was actually gold certified through the Leah's Pantry Nutrition Pantry program for all the efforts they're doing in the community to help families. And so both of these resources were shared and Fullerton School District posted on their website. Next slide, please. And then on the Nutrition Services website, they also have that food assistance in Orange County flyer available, which also wanted to mention that this flyer is available in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean as well. And the other thing that they put on their website, if you look to the right, is the CalFresh icon. And so when families click on that CalFresh icon, it takes them to the Benefits Cal website. Next slide, please. And this is that website. So this is where families can actually go and learn more and actually apply for benefits. Next slide, please. And then last, we just wanted to share this new resources that we actually developed in collaboration with the Fullerton School District. And we're actually going to make it available for all school districts to use if they are interested. So you could co-brand and put your logo on this flyer. But what it does is it highlights different ways families can make it a healthy summer by accessing food. And it highlights CalFresh food benefits, as well as summer meals for kids to, fill in that gap while kids are out of school. And then also highlight some tips to choose healthy beverages through Rethink Your Drink promotion. And this flyer is available in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean, and we're hoping to start distributing this next week just in time for the end of the school year. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it on to my colleague, Anna Luciano-Acenas.
Thank you, Gina. So good afternoon, everyone. From the start of the presentation, you might have heard keywords such as local wellness policy, Mas Fresco program by Northgate, and the use of the CalFresh Social Services Agency's CalFresh Toolkit for K-12. So I'm hoping we can take a little bit of a closer look how it got used in the city of Anaheim, specifically with our work with Anaheim Elementary School District. Next slide, please. So our work in Anaheim Elementary School District, we wanted to note that we share the common vision aligning the work that we do with their wellness policy, which is a commitment to providing school environments that promote and protect children's health, well-being, and ability to learn by supporting healthy eating and physical activity. And with that, we look at the work if it aligns with addressing food and nutrition security at the district level. So the work that we do, are we able to work together to make the healthy choice the easy choice for everyone? Next slide, please. So the first photo is, sharing common values. Are students enjoying healthy school meals? Can students and families shop for healthy options? And can students enjoy family meals using healthy recipes together? So these are some of the common values that as we meet with our partners, we want to make sure that we all share them together. Next slide, please. So how do we do it? We basically do three things, and we do it over and over in the span of a school year. We partner, we engage, and then we support. Next slide, please. Specifically in this project, we wanted to highlight the partnerships that we established with, or that we nurtured with Anaheim Elementary School District, Anaheim Union High School District, and Northgate Market. Next slide, please. So when we look at the engagement piece of the project, looking at the CalFresh Communications Toolkit, we actually took the time and shared the toolkit to discuss it with the Assistant Food Service Director of Anaheim Union High School District and the Anaheim Elementary School District Wellness Lead. We went over the resources and brainstormed ideas on how to use it. how to share it with community liaisons, which components will work best in social media postings and in presenting in parent meetings. This discussion actually led to a timely promotion of the Mass Fresco program in Northgate. Specifically, it was mentioned earlier that for CalFresh recipients, this will mean financial incentives each time families use CalFresh to buy fruits and veggies at the Northgate store. So it was a good promotion to layer together. It was also timely that there was an existing grant in Anaheim Union High School District that allowed the expansion and creation of school gardens in 6 sites. So with a CalFresh Healthy Living hat on nutrition education, we jumped on the efforts to support this project so we can further engage students, teachers, principals, community liaisons, and even the maintenance crew to use the space for gardening activities, supporting the food service menu of California-grown produce, offering students hands-on experience of growing their own produce, and celebrating the success with the year-end harvest celebrations. The overall goals of this program was for families to apply for CalFresh so they can take advantage of Mass Fresco while children are being taught about growing their produce for taste testing and eating in the school setting. So it was our way for kind of connecting the dots in a school setting. Next slide, please. So basically, we continue to support. Once the SSA CalFresh Toolkit has been presented, you have to have communications plan. So we continue to look at it again and kind of identify what are the next pieces that are going to be launched just before summer starts in the school setting. What can the communications team in Anaheim Elementary School District use? We continue to conduct in-person site visits and classes. In fact, there's going to be a lot of Harvest Day celebrations in the 6 sites in the next couple of weeks or in the next 2 weeks just before school year ends. And of course, we continue to listen to the school partners' needs and priorities to kind of get that pulse of how else we can enrich nutrition education and at the same time address the needs for nutrition and food security altogether. Next slide, please. So I think that would be the highlight that we wanted to share for the work that we do in Anaheim Elementary School District. So I'm going to pass it on to a very dear friend, Dareen.
Thank you, Anna. Really appreciate hearing from you and Gina. And it's always good to hear examples of what partnerships are doing and how it directly impacts students and families. So thank you so much for sharing. Speaking of partners, our next presenter is from San Diego County. I'm waiting for the slide to come up. There we go. Amanda Mascia. I have to practice her last name. Did I say it right? Mascia. That's how she taught me to say her last name. Is here from San Diego County. She's going to share a little bit of some lessons and ways for us to kind of adopt some of the successes that are happening in our neighboring counties. So thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. Please take it away.
Thank you, Dareen. I'm really honored to be here. We believe so much in what all the previous speakers have said, that here in San Diego County, we launched this year a CalFresh in Schools initiative in partnership with No Kid Hungry and 2 of our local school districts. So we're here to humbly share some lessons and insight from our county. Next slide, please. All right, so here's our presentation outline. It's simple. We're going to talk about the team that we formed and the out-of-the-box ideas that we would suggest everybody embraces, and then also some best practices. Next slide. Thank you. So first of all, teamwork makes the dream work. And we had a big dream. We wanted one of our rural school districts to be able to go CEP district-wide by increasing CalFresh enrollment and reaching a CEP threshold. And then we wanted to get in another one of our districts 2 schools to be able to go to CEP through increasing CalFresh enrollment. So we had a whole district and then we had 2 schools. So we knew that building a team was going to be essential and having really clear roles was going to be essential. So let's talk about our team. All right, so here's the dream team. So we had nutrition service director, data, so otherwise known as like info systems supervisor is like official title, principal or student service liaison, a champion, which is a new teammate you might not have heard of. We're going to dig into all these as well. And then a CalFresh application assister. So these are our essential teammates. And now let's look at what those teammates do. All right, so our nutrition service director in each district that we work with, they were really our project lead. They were the ones that were leading the project, bringing everybody to the table. They understood how much going CEP was going to mean, not only to the district, but all that CalFresh help is going to be so great for students. So they brought everybody to the table from the school side. That data person or the info systems, they crunched the ISP, they created a target list for reaching out, so they were critical. And then our principal or our student service person, they were coordinating the outreach efforts in school. And I think Peter talked about this. Schools are the most trusted source for CalFresh information. So we really also bought into that and tapped into that. And then next we had a champion. So the champion is a trusted voice for family outreach, but one-on-one outreach. So while the principal or student service were doing mass outreach, we had a champion that was doing one-on-one, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then of course our CalFresh assister was there to help assist families with enrollment, and we had a referral pathway. So every time we talked about CalFresh, families knew that they could go to a CalFresh application assisting organization to get help with enrollment. And that was really critical to the success too. Okay, next slide. All right, so let's talk about that champion. This was a really exciting idea that we actually gently borrowed from LA Unified. They shared that they use this champion model as folks to help get meal applications back at the beginning of the school year. And we were like, this is a great idea. Let's try it out. So the champion, let's talk about who they are. They are someone who already has a heart for the school community, and they might even be known among families or administrators. Perhaps they're retired or they're looking for extra hours. And then the personality is they are proactive, they're outgoing, they're positive, and they're trusted. They're a trusted voice, and they love helping students and families. So these are people that we engage for one-on-one outreach to families. Hi, would you like to hear more about CalFresh, or would you be interested in enrolling? They picked up the phone, they hung up flyers, and we'll say to, we were able to give them stipends through partnership with No Kid Hungry, and that was an honoring and integral part to their work. This is work, and by honoring work with some money, it's a beautiful way to work together. Next slide. All right, our CalFresh assister. So down here in San Diego County, we have several CalFresh assisting organizations, whether they be community health centers or community-based organizations. They are folks that already understand the CalFresh program. They're able to help answer any and all questions that parents may have, and they'll help families enroll for CalFresh. So they already know the enrollment process, they know the paperwork that's needed, and they can help track and manage the application process. And so they are essential teammates. Next slide, please. Okay, next up, embracing out-of-the-box thinking. So we're going to share some ideas that came out of the box here, and there were 4 of them that we would like to highlight. Direct certification list, email blast, a Google Drive we created, as well as we'll share a flyer. All right, so direct cert. So this idea, this out-of-the-box idea actually came from a nutrition service director and that information systems person. We were thinking, oh, we'll contact families that aren't on CalFresh, but their students are FRPM eligible. And the nutrition service director was like, you know, I have a feeling that we probably have some families that used to be on CalFresh and they're not on CalFresh and they're still at our school. So what if we pull lists from the last, I think we went back 2 years, and we were like, okay, for the last 2 years, school year 1920 and 2021, who used to be on CalFresh, and then compare that against who is on CalFresh this school year. And what we found was quite a bit of families. And so when our CalFresh champion called through, 50% of those families that we called through on that list said, yes, I want to talk about enrolling now in CalFresh. So it was a really great list to call through. And those families were really excited to get hooked back up to CalFresh through an application assister. All right, let's look at our next big idea here. So email blast. So that was super targeted. So targeting families based on CalFresh enrollment. And then we thought, let's send an email to that same exact pool of families. So we connected with the principal and we created a beautiful email, which I'm sure we just grabbed it from No Kid Hungry's beautiful toolkit, to be quite honest. But so there was an email, we're like, let's send it to those families. And then happiest of accidents, they accidentally sent it to the whole student body. So the email went out to the whole student body, and 200 referrals went through the very next day to the application assisting organization. So our out of the box idea was kind of an accident, but never, I guess the out of the box idea is never assume you think you know exactly who is going to respond to your message. Sometimes it should be targeted, and then sometimes maybe a lot more people are interested in CalFresh in your school or need CalFresh in your school than you would ever assume. So open it up to everybody. All right, next idea here. Oh, this was really essential. So we were thinking, how are we going to communicate? We've got a list of students we want to call through. We've got a champion that's calling families direct. And then we have a CalFresh assisting organization that is getting referrals. Like, how are we going to connect everybody? So what we were able to do was set up a Google Drive, and our key partners and our key team members were able to access. So we had the student or the parent name, the student name, our champion called through and said what time they tried the first time, what time they tried the second time they left the message, if the family was willing or wanting a referral, and then the time of day they wanted to be called back by the CalFresh assisting organization. So this really helped turn those like 50% of families that were interested into applying. We had a really high rate of application too. So it was a really wonderful way for everybody to communicate in one place. So we were super proud of this. Next slide. And then flyers. We recognize that, again, schools are trusted. So look at this flyer right in the center, Mountain Empire Unified School District, talking about pairing with an application assisting organization. We have that referral pathway right up front. If you're interested, we paired together with San Diego Health. Here's the number you can call. Here's the email you can call. And then San Diego Health trusted information that they had already been using and promoting in the community for what is CalFresh, what do you need to apply, and also talking and addressing the real fear of public charge and being real clear upfront. Utilizing CalFresh is not a public charge. And then of course, showing all the initiative logos. So all of us together working to help these families in the school district. So this flyer was, I would say it was like the workhorse of this initiative. Next slide. Okay, best practices. So we had our out of the box ideas, and now I want to share our best practices. So these are things we'd say, like, if you can do these things, go ahead and do them. All right, let's look at the first one. Next slide. So if you have promotors in your community, community health workers that do outreach and education on projects involving health and wellness in the community. Promotores have such a deep, honored relationship with the community, and they're so trusted in schools and families. We found we were able to really it was turnkey in Sweetwater, where we already had an existing promotor actually embedded in the school. So not only could families get referred to the promotor for CalFresh enrollment, but they could go and meet with her in a private room and talk about CalFresh and work through the application process one-on-one in person with someone they already knew and trusted in their school. So we can't say enough beautiful things about working with promotores. So if you can, work with them. Next slide. All right, check-ins. So any kind of teamwork, getting people together may seem like an awful task if you've ever tried to find a mutual time to all get together, but frequent check-ins were essential to this work. So not only established us as a team earlier, but established our goals. And it also allowed for frequent questions that sometimes, you might be a little sheepish to put a question in an email because it feels a little formal, but being able to get together, I mean, obviously we're doing it on the computer, but able to ask questions, able to also resolve things really quickly. So setting up a Google Drive could kind of be painful over an email process, but on a Zoom, we were able to really quickly share screens and talk about it and how we're going to update. So frequent check-ins are essential. Next slide. Please, sorry. And I can't say this enough, celebration. So celebrate all wins. I think one of our previous speakers was talking about the simple act of putting a CalFresh button and link to CalFresh application on a nutrition service website. So when we first got this initiative and we had a big goal of, turning a district CE and turning these 2 schools CEP, first step was put the button on the website. So our first check-in, we got together and the CalFresh assisting organization was like, oh, well, it's not that big of news, but they put the button up, we already got 1 referral and 1 application in. And you would have thought like, we just won the Stanley Cup, like we went crazy. So celebrate those wins, as small as they are and as early as they are. That is teamwork in action. And so, yeah, you get really inspired by those early wins and then they snowball. So let's see. I think I have just one more slide, please and thank you. So yeah, my thank you here is also to thank No Kid Hungry for their leadership in this space, and also to say like our initiative, it worked. So our 2 schools, they actually are getting onto CEP. They're working on their application, and our district that we were working with, they met their threshold. They're working on their CEP application. So big, hairy goals coming to fruition. So if you feel brave enough to try it, do it. It's worth it.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm so inspired. I really appreciate you kind of giving us the how-to and walking us through it. And honestly, super inspired to do something similar in Orange County. If anybody on this webinar is interested, we would love to replicate this model. And I'm really actually very grateful that I have your contact information. So if we have any follow-up questions, we know how to reach you. Thank you so much for the insight and again, for walking us through your practices.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we are just moving right along to the final segment. And 2 of my favorite people are going to be presenting. Our amazing partner from No Kid Hungry, Daisy, and one of my colleagues at Orange County Department of Ed, Celeste Reynoso. So I am going to hand it over to Daisy, who's going to start us off and share some great resources right now. Hi, Daisy.
And hello, everyone. We're almost to the end, so just bear with us. But Celeste and I are going to share some more strategies you can use during CalFresh enrollment via schools. Next slide, please. So I want to start with starting Senate Bill 708, and maybe some of you are already aware of the bill, but this bill passed in 2015, and it requires school districts and charter schools that have their meal application online to also have the CalFresh application link online. And a lot of people were not familiar with this bill. And we have been, sharing about the bill, doing webinars, talking to partners. And in January, OCD did an analysis to see how many school districts had the CalFresh application link on their website. And the OC, there's about 28 public school districts. How many do you think have the link on their website out of the 28? Zero. Zero school districts have the CalFresh application link. So this is just a reminder that if you have your meal application on your website, it's also mandatory to have the state application for healthcare, the WIC application, and also the CalFresh application link, as well as with your summer meals operation information. We're currently working on updating the bill so it not only includes meal applications, but it also includes alternative income forms. But there has been a lot of positive change, and a lot of school districts in the OC have added the CalFresh application link to their website. We went from 0 to, guess what, 21 school districts. As Amanda says, we have to celebrate the wins, and that's a huge win. And we went from 0 to 21 in less than 6 months. Next slide. So I want to say thank you to all the school districts and charter schools for adding the CalFresh application link. But I want to share some best practices. Now that we have the icon on the link, is there anything else we can do for it to be more visible to parents? So I wanted to share an example from Coachella Valley USD in Riverside County. They have the icon of CalFresh, but they have a short blurb in English and Spanish explaining what the program is. And I think that's key. If a parent is not familiar with CalFresh, they might see it on the website, but won't click on it because they're like, oh, CalFresh, I wonder what that is. So we're really encouraging our school partners to add a blurb, a post, a graphic. And Celeste is going to share that we have a social media toolkit that has graphics and posts in 13 different languages. So we encourage you to add a little extra beyond the icon. Next slide, please. So here are a few of our best practices when it comes to adding the CalFresh application link to your school district website. Don't only add it to your nutrition website, but see if you can add it to the front page, like the whole district website. As I've been looking through different districts, I have to kind of search and navigate to find the CalFresh icon. Click a tab, click a different department. So if we can partner together and talk to our IT department, maybe we have it on our nutrition website, but also our district website. Add a short blurb, add a graphic, make sure that application link is on the website. And if you have a Facebook or Instagram page, why not add it on there? As we know, our parents love to use Facebook. So if your school district has a Facebook page, go ahead and just do a post, put a number, put more information that parents can use to see if they're eligible for this program. We think it's a great best practice on how to move forward on creating more awareness of CalFresh on your websites. Next slide, please. All right. And to encourage all of you to add more information on your school websites, school districts and charter schools and any schools under county ed offices are going to be entered into a CalFresh outreach challenge. And if you have the icon and the application link already on your website, you're already, part of the challenge, but we encourage you to add more information. And we currently have 6 districts left in the OC that have not added the link. So by June 15th, we're going to do a drawing for 3 school districts that added the CalFresh application link and icon to their website to win $500. These funds have no restrictions. You can use them to take your staff to Starbucks, buy t-shirts, buy breakfast or lunch, buy gift cards, to raffle off to your staff for staff morale. So we're really open, and the deadline is June 15th. So if you're a district that does not have the icon or the application link, please contact Celeste so we can keep track of who's adding the information on their websites. And if you're adding a blurb, a graphic, let us know as well. We might give you some extra bonus entries into the raffle. So next slide. I also want to share another bill, Assembly Bill 402. Let me get some water, excuse me. And this is another great practice of how to maybe be able to do outreach to students who qualify for free and reduced price meals that also may be eligible for CalFresh. So AB 402 allows school districts to enter into a partner agreement with your local county welfare department. So you can use the meal application as a way for a parent to check off and say, based on my income, I consent that somebody from the county office can reach out to me with more CalFresh information in case I'm eligible. So far, I do not know for school district doing this in the OC. This bill has been active since 2011. So let's create partnerships, let's work together and use this tool as a way to, have more targeted outreach. Next slide. Here's another example of a parent consent form you can use. So when the slides go out, there's a link to the CDSS letter that has more information about things that need to be included in your partner agreement, but it has samples of what this can look like for your meal application or your alternative income form. It could be a checkbox, it can be an additional letter you have. So we think it's a great practice that you can do, send out to all your parents in your school district, and they say, hey, it's okay, someone can call me. And that way we can do targeted outreach with people that want more information about CalFresh. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to pass over to Celeste to talk about our toolkits and guides.
Hello. So great. Thank you so much. With our collaboration with No Kid Hungry, we have made this toolkit for OC school districts and organizations that is available. It shares a little bit more information in terms of the CalFresh outreach, but then also really is specific to Orange County. So I know that Peter talked about the locations of the SSA offices where people can go and apply. So we have the addresses, the hours of operation and locations of those places, as well as the Orange County CalFresh assisters in there as well, and some sample school wellness policy language that you can just take from the toolkit and implement within your school wellness policy. So this really kind of ties in everything that we've talked about in a simple way. And then also includes the No Kid Hungry Outreach Social Media Toolkit, which has graphics and social media posts available in 13 different languages. So it really is a one-stop shop for all of this information. And I know we have shared so much information, but the great news is that it is easily accessible and easily found on the No Kid Hungry webpage. So Tommy, if you can click on that link and show what that landing page looks like. Here is the landing page of the No Kid Hungry California. You'll see some information, and right here is the new CalFresh Outreach Social Marketing Toolkit. So if you click on that green button, on the orange button, it will take you to all of the social marketing items, as well as the images, graphics, and blurbs that you can take and put those on your website if you want to do the CalFresh challenge, or if you just want to put it on your Facebook. So here are some examples of those. And then can you go back to the outreach toolkit page? Perfect. So what's really exciting about this is right here where it says get the county CalFresh, you see that it's separated by different counties. So we have done this webinar with Los Angeles County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County, as well as San Diego. And now we have an Orange County landing page, which is very exciting. So here we have the flyer for the CalFresh Challenge, but this is also where you will find this webinar recording, and also where you will find all of the toolkits. So everything that we have shared today will be available on this link, which will be shared at the end of the webinar. So you don't have to go fishing or looking through everyone's presentations. It is all here for you. So Tommy is clicking through the toolkit that I mentioned. So here you'll be able to find all of those pages. all easily accessible for you to reach. And can we go back to the slides? And next slide, please. So a little bit more about our partnership with No Kid Hungry. We have partnered with No Kid Hungry for a couple of years now. No Kid Hungry has awarded over $900,000 in funding to community-based organizations and school districts in Orange County across 17 partners. In 2018 and 19, our focus was in Capistrano Valley Unified School District to increase breakfast participation. In 2019 and 20, we shifted our focus and awarded $165,000 worth of grants to support emergency feeding during COVID-19 response. And that was awarded to Capistrano, Tustin, Fullerton Joint Union, Fullerton School District, and Santa Ana Unified. This year, we have applied and submitted grants for Fullerton, Santa Ana, Huntington Beach City School District, and Los Alamitos School District, awarding them with $193,000 worth of grants for preparation of universal school meals. And this was really definitely highlighting the need of those, especially high income districts that really have those pockets that kind of, that was shared by Peter, those definitely pockets of low income people who need these types of meals and who are resorting to more meals at the school site. So we are seeing a huge increase in school meal participation overall across all of our districts. So we have shifted our focus in terms of grants over the course of the years, as you can see. Next slide, please. So moving on to connecting to CalFresh grants, we have some CalFresh grants that are available. So if you were inspired by Amanda's presentation, we have grants that can support your efforts. So if you would like to do any of those Promotoras program or pay for a champion mom, we have it. Get the grant, go for a grant. It is extremely helpful. The deadline to apply is May 31st. So I know that is coming up, but if you have a plan or if you have an idea of something that you would like to do, we definitely recommend that you apply and definitely reach out to me. We will help facilitate you guys with the application process, reporting process, and submission. So it is a really no-brainer. Make it as easy as possible for you to receive those funds and support your CalFresh outreach efforts within the school site. Next slide, please. So 21 and 22 and beyond, we will continue our support with No Kid Hungry by doing these grant writings, facilitating some of the grants, whether that be CalFresh outreach or other meals as they come, so universal school meals, CUP, all that good stuff, as well as really creating some individualized marketing plans to support your CalFresh outreach. So if you really are interested in getting that mobile response vehicle to your school district or to your next parent event or fair, we can definitely connect you and help you set that up. If you are interested in having a marketing outreach plan where you want some more information in terms of the toolkit that Anna and Gina shared as it was done in Fullerton and Anaheim Elementary School Districts, we can definitely also help you with that. And we can also provide some of this information to parents in English and Spanish if they are interested in knowing more about CalFresh and what is available for them. If they are just completely unaware of the programs, we also offer that kind of assistance. There are currently 2 CalFresh assisters here in Orange County, which is UCI Fresh Hub and 211 of Orange County. So those act as our assisters if you're planning on implementing the model of then having a promotor and then connecting to an assister, we can also kind of bridge that gap. So here at Orange County Department of Education, we really are trying to make it as easy as possible for you. So whatever your big idea is or whatever your need is, you don't have to go out and fishing and emailing individual organizations or partners. We can definitely give you the resources and connect you to the people with that you want for your vision. So that is my segment. Thank you all. I know that I'm cutting it down to the wire, so I appreciate your time, and I will hand it back to Dareen for any closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Celeste. I think you and Daisy, your section, just kind of wrapping up this webinar with the fact that we have supports, there's help. I already put, Celeste, I put your email address already in the chat. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We really all are here to provide supports to our schools to really build up this bridge. And we thank you so much for your time, your energy, and being with us. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, this recording as well as the slides will be shared with everyone within the week. So again, thank you for all that you do. And remember, support is here for us to take another step into providing better supports for our families and our students. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.